Good morning, guys. Happy Monday. Happy holidays. I hope everyone had an amazing weekend. Tomorrow is the start of a new trading week. We're going to kill it. So in today's video, we're going to go over the SPY, the NASDAQ, the IWM. We're going to talk about the crypto markets. We're going to talk about what my opinion is for the coming week. All right. So without further ado, let's get started with the video. So number one, Fed Powell speaks. He testifies before the Senate Wednesday morning at 9:30. And then also on Thursday morning at 10 a.m. So he's going to be speaking 2 times this week, Wednesday and Thursday morning. Also, basically one of the main reasons why the crypto market started to bounce was because SBF, who's Sam, right? Sam, who's the CEO of FTX, who is also a part of Alameda, and Alameda invests in companies that are basically trading on FTX. And FTX is a very, very, very large, this is a whole big conglomerate, very, very big player. Lots of big players here. So basically, because they saw that the market was really on the brink of collapse, Alameda, you can see, is stepping in to prevent further contagion across the crypto sector during the current bear market. So they're helping companies that are basically losing money, and similar to what the Fed was doing with the stock market. Alameda is basically doing that for the companies that they're invested in the crypto market. So because they were doing that, we saw that bounce in the crypto market, and that's essentially what's going on. In a later video, I might, explain the different key players and how, because multiple key players, how they're invested in various different things, who they branch out to, because also these are market makers. So FTX is a market maker. It's an exchange. Binance is a market maker. They're an exchange. So they're tied to different entities. Those entities are basically in competition with the other entities. And it's a whole big, it's a fiasco. I mean, because there's no regulation. So then it's just a matter of outwitting, having more capital than your opponents. So maybe I'll make a video going into a bit more detail into the key players and what they get out of these things. But in general, just keep in mind, these guys, it's like teams of people that can manage tens, hundreds of billions of dollars. So if they short specific tokens, another team might be longing it as a way of squeezing the other people and try to make them lose money, et cetera, et cetera. You could go talk about this for a while, but essentially, we can quickly take a look at the Bitcoin charts. Well, we saw that Bitcoin was at major levels of support. So we could see it on this chart, which is the log chart. And then there was another very important level of support on the non-log chart. Different trend lines, and they happen to deploy the capital at these extreme overextensions to the downside, basically at these levels of support. And basically, if we were to break these levels of support, then 10 to 13k Bitcoin was going to be on the table, and that would have decimated a lot of altcoins. So it makes sense why they decided to wait until now to deploy the capital. And this news is basically new. They did it yesterday. If they wanted, they could have deployed this as they broke 20. They could have waited. They could have done it as it broke 25, as it broke 20, but they waited at this trend line, and they knew that if they saw the order books, obviously they have all of the data for everything. But another key factor is that retail traders, hedge funds and algorithms and everything are looking at different trend lines and places where people will buy at support. So they're also aware of that. So it's really interesting. SBF is literally, he was born in 92. So he's 30 or 31 years old right now. So he understands market dynamics and buying at support similar to Elon. Elon tweets certain things at the support level of back when he was tweeting about Tesla, he was tweeting at support. But when he tweets about crypto or Doge or anything like that, before, it was completely beautifully at support. So they would deliberately post things at favorable times technically. So there's that, right? That's basically why the crypto market is bouncing. And if the crypto market is bouncing, then it's a good chance, because we were seeing all of the weakness in the crypto market and people were attributing that weakness like, oh my God, is the stock market going to drop as well? Now that we see that the crypto market is bouncing, it gives me more comfort that the stock market might bounce this week as well. All right, so let's go into that. So number one, this is the ES futures on a weekly chart. I'm just going to lay out my bias very, very simply. Because we opened on the weekly chart outside of the lower Bollinger Band along this basically falling wedge support, right? Because this pattern is basically at support and we are opening very, very overextended to the downside. You can see that the lower Bollinger Band number is going to be here. The opening price is here. We are opening at 36.84. And the lower Bollinger Band is at 3695. So we are below it. So that is a very good chance that this week we should be leaning long, in my opinion. If we do continue to fall lower, I think all of these dips are buying opportunities for this week, because it is very, very rarely the case that we open outside of the lower Bollinger Band on the ES. Or like any indexes like ETFs, like large SPY, QQQ, IWM, any of these large ETFs where we don't bounce during that week. So this is a very, very good sign that we opened very overextended to the downside. That's what we want to see, because that is the only time when we get aggressive to the long side during a bear market, is when we are extremely algorithmically overextended to the downside. Otherwise, this is still a bear market. But for this week specifically, I'm going to be leaning long. So there's this for the ES, right? So before I continue talking about bullish signs, it's very, very important to also understand that intra-week we can fall much, much lower. And this is something that we have to take into consideration. We can see that the MACD is beginning, like it's curling upwards. It's still curling upwards. Yet the price is falling lower, which is automatically a very bad sign, right? But the other thing that is very frightening to me is that the RSI is still not oversold. So we've been falling very, very dramatically. And you can see that over here when the RSI began to stagnate. A few videos ago, I was talking about how the RSI is stagnating, is very, very bearish. And I was saying, like, I remember verbatim, we fell so sharply at the IWM, or the RSI still could not go into oversold. How much lower do we need to go for the RSI to become oversold? So what ended up happening was, this was over here. We bounced up a little bit, and then we made new lows, and still the RSI is still not oversold. So this is dramatic. This is dramatically weak. Coupled with the MACD moving upwards, yet us falling lower, is obviously dramatically weak. So we can still fall much lower, but the odds of us basically capitulating down now, that's going to be the fun part, is positioning yourself properly to not get blown out on your portfolio if it does fall, but then also have enough money at hand to buy dips for a potential move upwards. Because it's very rare that we open that week on the weekly chart for us not to bounce again, like during the week. So that's the main thing. I think we bounce during the week, but on the daily chart, the RSI, the MACD, and the price action of the SPY is still currently weak. That can still change, obviously, if we open very well on Tuesday and continue to do well Wednesday as well, after Wednesday morning during the Fed meeting. But these are the only issues that I see right now. And now continuing with the bullishness, right? So number one, obviously, like, we want to see the SPY trading above 371, because you can clearly see, like, it's not out of the norm, right? look at where we are. This is 370.5. This was a major level of resistance over here, major level of support here. Obviously, a very heavily contested area. So we want to see the SPY trading above 371. But yeah, so essentially once that happens, it'll give steam for us to retest and break above 373 and then retest the very major important 383 level. If we can end up breaking above that, then we can start retesting the gaps to the upside. I don't know if we go that high, but overall, any of these pops that we get are good shorting opportunities. But when we are extremely overextended to the downside, that is the only time we have good buying opportunities. Coupled with the fact that Bitcoin, or the crypto market, is getting a bailout from a major exchange and player, that's a good sign as well. So, and coupled with also that the NASDAQ stocks they were leading. So that's very, very important. We can see a lot of strength from Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, the tech sector as well. It's very, very important that these guys were getting a lot of love. So the fact that the NASDAQ was getting a lot of love is very, very good for the other sectors as well. Also, something that's very good for the economy is that crude oil was taking a hit. So crude oil taking a hit, and these other gas companies, Exxon, etc., taking a hit as well. Very, very good for the grand scheme of things. So so once we see lower and lower gas prices, that'll mean that inflation is basically starting to, get under control. If we can start seeing once you start seeing gas prices lower and lower, you can innately say, okay, all of these hikes and everything, the inflation is getting under control. But until then, we still have a long way to go. So yeah, I mean, there's many different reasons why we could be seeing a bounce this week. Overall, I'm going to be bullish this week. Any new lows that we make are going to be good buying opportunities, in my opinion. We have to do it intelligently, but this week I'm going to be leaning long, and it looks, I don't think it is profitable to really heavily short at these levels. It doesn't make sense to heavily short during range bound markets, right? Especially when things are choppy and things are range bound. You buy at support and you sell. So you buy at support and you sell at resistance. So when things are high, that's when you sell, aka that's when you short. When things are low, you don't try to continue to short when things have already fallen this low, right? In a range bound market, what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to make this bounce back up to 383. So they're going to want this to bounce back up to at least 380 to 383. That is when people are going to load back up into shorts. But down here doesn't make any sense. So please, keep that in mind. That's just my opinion. But yeah, essentially, I hope you guys have an amazing day. I will see you guys tomorrow. Make sure to join the chat. We're going to be killing it this week. All right, so have an amazing one. Good. Goodbye.